Good day, everyone. I am Jay Dana Okag, and together with my groupmates, we are going to report the Chapter 2, titled History of Forensic Document Examination. So, here are the learning objectives of this discussion. First is to narrate the history of writing and forgery. Next is to enumerate the important events in the USA involving of the pioneers and document examination. And lastly is to cite historical cases on the development of question document examination. History of writing. So writings are letters or symbols that are written or imprinted on a surface to represent a sound or words of language. So when we say writing, mo na siya kaning magsulat daw og mga letters or mga symbols on a specific surface. For example, magsulat ta on a bond paper using a pen or a pencil or any other surfaces. But then during the time when papers and ball pens or pencils have not yet discovered, so the early people uses stones or kaning mga charcoal to write in a surface such as kaning sa mga bato or sa mga caves. And also those primitive people, they wanted to write on a specific surface to communicate their thoughts, their ideas to other people. So one of the main reason why writing has evolved or nag-evolve as time goes by, it is because man's desire to communicate with other people. So the primitive people during those time nga mga tao nga dili pa daw sila kabalo mosulat or wala pa sila idea kung unsa nang mga letters or unsa nang mga words mga ning ana, so they tend to communicate with other people with oral language and with the use of their early stage writing. So when say oral language kanang nag-communicate lang, isa lang sa ilahang pamaagi to communicate with other people is through kaning makig-istorya sila sa other people. But di ba ginagamit man siya po nato karon, but then as of today we have a lot of means or a lot of ways to communicate with other people compared to the century years ago wherein writing have not yet kaning developed. And also they communicate through early stage of writing. So one of the early stage of writing is through visible signs that is understandable. So nagasulat or nagabuhat sila mga visible sign nga understandable lang pod sa ubang tao. Like for example, kanang sa isa ka cave, di ba, ay na pwede sila mag-drawing sila og isa ka sign, mag-drawing sila og arrow nga diri padulong is diri ang exit sa arrow sa cave rather, and then kana nga arrow nagapasabot na siya nga exit na siya ana nga cave. And also na mga signs nga pwede nila buhaton nga kini nga part sa cave is dangerous and dapat dili mo moadto diri. So makaning ana nga mga pamaagi. And then also early writing, so mga examples sa early writing included records engraved into stones, carved on wood, pressed into clay tablets, and marked in animal skin. So those are the examples nga makita nato nga makita or na-discover sa mga scientists, which is very useful in today's generation because we can compare the old writings up from century years ago up until today, wherein nakita na to nga naadyoy kalahian, naadyoy evolution nga nahitabo. And then scientists discovered nga dira sa mga places kay na nagapundo dira nga mga tao, it is because of those signs, because of the symbols nga ilahang gi-engrave or ilahang ginasulat sa mga surfaces such as sa mga walls sa cave or sa mga stones. Cave drawings are, of course, the most familiar of early writings. They are, in fact, the first recorded record of prehistoric people. Cave drawings are called petroglyphs or petrograms and are developed between 20,000 and 10,000 BC. So, as we all know, sa una itong mga panahon sa the early centuries, no, people have not yet discovered how to build the houses. So sila kabalon sa pag-build og mga houses. That is why they tend to live or to have their shelter at caves to protect them from any attacks or sa mga ulan mga ning ana. So that moment, no, as they live in the cave, so na sila kaning maybe they wanted to communicate to other people first, and also maybe kaning murag mahimo na nila nga pastime na kanang magdrawing sa mga cave kay kaning mga ginadrawing nila as shown in the illustration, no, so different things ang ilang mga ginadrawing, may mga animals and mga symbols, so maybe para sa to kay murag gubot kay siya tan-awon, murag wala lang siya, but then during those times sa ilahang nga time, no, kay naadyo ni siya dako kayo nga role, or na siya dako kayo nga role nga ginagampanan in their kaning ways of living and their everyday day-to-day life basis, and it can be used, they can use them to communicate with other people nga nga naa dito as a cave, or ang nga mag-agi po dito as a cave. These paintings gradually developed into word pictures or ideographs, which were used by Sumerians, Chinese, Aztecs, Mayas, and Egyptian. So, shown in the illustration na makita nato nga naay kanimo na siya ang ideographs or ang word pictures. So, lahi-lahi siya nagikan sa Mesopotamia, sa Egyptian o sa Chinese. But then, even though they are quite different with each other, but if you look closer to each other, do makita nato na siya mga similarities, and maybe that is one of the reason why up until today, diba, sa to ang mga salalahi nga mga bansa, like for example sa Chinese, sa Japanese, sa Korean, mga ning ana, so lahi-lahi man ang ilahang the way sila mosulat sa ilahang mga kaning sa alphabet, but then marag makita Japon nato nga naa Japon siya mga kaning similarities kung mo tan-awon jud nato siya, look closer jud sa ilaha, and maybe diri ani siya gikan nga mga kuan, because naga-evolve man ang ato ang alphabet. These word pictures develop into symbols which were then used to represent sound or syllables called phonographs. These then develop into simplified phonetic symbols called phonetic alphabet, an alphabet of characters intended to represent specific sound of speech. The Sumerians are generally credited with the development of the alphabet. So as the years goes by, as the time has passed by, so naga-develop man jud ang kaning kuan ang atong alphabet, ang atong the way ta mag-write. It is because of the ideas of the man, kay ang ang tao jud, human as we are, we wanted to discover and we wanted more, and then that is why naka-develop sila and nakaisip sila nini nga mga kuan. So gikan natong sa cave, nagasat sa cave, and katong sa mga word pictures nga nakita nato earlier, so nag-develop siya into kaning symbols which represent sounds ng ginatawag og phonographs. But then katong phonographs is na-develop na po siya into phonetic symbols, simplified phonetic symbols called the phonetic alphabet. So diri ana ni sulod ang mga letters which is intended to have a specific sounds or specific kaning characters to represent sounds of the speech. So mao na siya ang kaning mga letters nga na ay specific sound, na ay specific speech nga today nga ginagamit na pod nato karon. And one of the kaning people nga mga na-accredited ani is ang mga Sumerians. So the Phoenician alphabet used and spread by Phoenician throughout the world between 1700 and 1500 BC. So it consisted of 22 letters written from right to left, assimilated to other culture, and become widely spread. So the Phoenician alphabet, which is consisted of 22 letters, no, so na pasa-pasa na rin siya sa mga culture, from one culture to another. So napasa na siya globally, that nga ginagamit na pud siya, widespread na pud siya nga ginagamit every culture. And this kaning alphabet, Phoenician alphabet, is kanang gisulat siya, so 22 di ba kabukihang letters, so it is written from right to left. So for example, pas karon kung tag right to left, so from Z to A ang ihang pagka-right niya sa una. So ninga na ang Phoenician alphabet, and gi-assimilate na daw siya sa mga culture, ginagamit na siya sa mga culture, na widespread na siya globally. So next is the Greek alphabet, derived from the Phoenician alphabet, used by Greeks since 8th century BC. So the word, so diri ang Greek alphabet pud no kay murag kay syempre napasa-pasa na diba tong Phoenician alphabet. So ang Greek kay nagbuhat pud sila ilaha, but then ang Greek alphabet giderive murag ilaha ra pud ning murag gikan ra pud siya sa Phoenician alphabet, but ang kalahian lang is that ang Greek alphabet consists siya og 24 letters with vowels, apil ang vowels, and also ilahang gi-change ang the way siya sa pagsulat. Di ba kadto sa Phoenician is from right to left, but diriya sa Greek alphabet from left to right, which is from Z to A, nahimo na siyang from A to Z. So next is the word alphabet stems from the first two letters of the Greek alphabet, alpha and beta. So ang word dahil nga alphabet is nagagikan siya sa first two letters sa Greek alphabet, which is the alpha and the beta. So dire makita na to mo ni siya ang phonetic alphabet. So I know we are quite familiar what is the phonetic alphabet. So nakabala na tanaw sa na siya kana Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, mga ana. So mo na siya ang phonetic alphabet nga ginagamit po siya sa una, and then but karon di ba mas makuha na siya nato para kanang sa mga bata murag na kuha na siya sa mga bata karon. A is for apple, B is for ball, kanang mga na naga para mas mapasayon sa ilaha. But mo jud ni siya ang phonetic alphabet. So the Greek alphabet evolved into Roman or Latin alphabet consisted of disconnected capital letters from several centuries. Roman scribes invented the lowercase letters that were patterned from capital letters. These letters simplified the forms and made it easier to copy manuscripts. So, ang ang mga Romans day ang naka-discover or nag-invent aning mga lowercase letter or kaning mga small letter A, small letter B, and which is very useful po siya karon sa ato ang pag-communicate sa bang tao, kay diba kung naay mo chat sa ato or mo istorya sa ato mo hatag sa tog letters tapos kanang capital letter tanan, sumrang ang impression sa ato is kaning murag nasuko. So kani siya useful pud day kayo, dako pud day kayo tabang ang kaning na-invent nila ang lowercase nga kaning mga letters. It is because every letters represents na pud day siya kaakibat na mga emotions or mga feelings nga pwede pud siya nga maka-apekto kung the way nimo siya ihatag sa ubang tao. So diri makita nato no nga the history of writing has evolved. It is because of the man's desire to communicate with other people. So the main reason why this writing gikan sa symbols, gikan sa mga word pictures, hangtod sa mga letters nga nagrepresent og mga speech, mga characters, mga ning ana. So nakita na to nga ang the discovery of man have led them to the evolution of this writing, which up to this generation nga ginagamit nato, which made our life easier, which made our life convenient to communicate and to have to convey our ideas with other people no matter what culture ta nagagikan and unsa man nga mga nasod ta nagagikan. It is because we have this kaning universal language, which is the English language nga magamit nato nga to communicate with other people and maka-understand, makasabot pud ta sa ilaha ug makasabot pud ta sa ilaha. History of forgery. So the history of forgery. Forgery or the falsification or altercation of a writing is as old as writing itself. So the crime of forgery has since ancient times where writing existed. So ang forgery daw is as old as writing. The moment nga na-discover ang writing, the moment nga nagsugod ang mga tawag sulat is the same moment nga ang forgery or ang pag-falsified or ang pag-alter with the intent to defraud is nahitabo na pod. Ang forgery is nahitabo na pod, nagsugod na pod. So below or ma-discuss nato diri ang mga important events in connection with the forgery. So first is in 80 BC. So Romans prohibited the falsification of document that transferred land to heirs. So diri Romans they enacted or they established a law targeting those people nga naga-forge or kaning falsified og mga documents in nga kanang documents in sa pag-transfer og lands to their ears. So isa sa ilahang mga ginatutukan during this time nga kaning kaning mga tao nga nagagamit og mga falsified documents para ma-transfer or para mabalhin lang ang kaning title sa land padulong sa isa ilahang tagapagmana or mga ningana. So next is ang Middle Age. So forgery become prevalent to Europe. So during the Middle Ages, no, the widespread of the falsification, the altercation of writings or the forgery in the Europe has been prevalent. So grabe ang kaning murag widespread kay ba, grabe ang pagkatag sa mga nahitabo na ni kaning kuan kay siya sa mga tao, daghan kig nagabuhat niini, daghan kig naga-forge og mga document, daghan kig naga alter og mga writing. So isa sa mga kuan diri isa sa mga kuan na mga prominent nga mga tao nga ila doon is ang mga monastic institution or kaning mga monasteries because they wanted to claim the land or the privilege or their glorious past. So it is because not only di ay ang mga monasteries during this time is a center of literary but also it is the repositories of documents. So meaning it is the place of documents. Di mo ang monasteries ani nga time is mo ni siya nga time nga ang mga documents dito ang mga ginabutang dito ginamurag butangan na siya sa mga documents ba sa mga lain nga mga documents. That is why murag mas dali na lang sa ilaha nga ma-access or to forge those document nga naa dito okay dito man place mismo ang mga butanganan sa mga document during this time. So during the 11th and the 12th century, it is considered as the golden age of kaning forgery in England kay grabe ang widespread kayo ang kaning panghitabo nga kanang mag-forge og mga titles sa land, mag-forge og mga documents, mga ning ana widespread kayo siya during this time. So isa ka example ani is ang donation of Constantine. So ang nahitabo ani is ang document is giforge siya nga gidonate daw ni siya, gidonate granted a vast territory to the Pope, but turn out katuday nga document is forged or falsified documents. So next is in 1562. So England passed a statute prohibiting forgery of publicly recorded and officially sealed documents, specifically those pertaining to title of lands. So diri apod no, title of lands gihapon ang ginakonsa diri ginatukoy diri so ang an act against forgers of false deeds and writings. So gipasa ni siya, gipirmahan na siya ni Queen Elizabeth I. So ang kadto nga mga tao nga nagamit og mga forged documents or nagbuhat sila og mga forged documents is pwede to siya magamit as evidence in court, and also it addresses the growing problem of fraud and forgery, particularly in relation to the ownership of the land. So it can be used in legal proceedings. So katong mga documents nga gigamit pang forge para lang makagain og ownership sa land, mga land titles, mga ning ana kay magamit daw siya as legal proceeding during this time nga gipasa ni siya nga batas dito sa England. So next is in 1762, false endorsement on an unsealed private document become punishable by pillory, fines, imprisonment, or even death. So, ang false daw nga pag-endorse sa mga unsealed private document, kanang pag-endorse nimo isa ka private document which is unsealed pa jud siya, false pa jud siya, mali pa jud siya daan. So, forged pa jud siya daan. So, gina-considered na siya as a serious offense during this time, and with that, naapod siya mga punishment nga kaakibat. So, first is ang pillory. So, kung mayroon tag pillory, mo na siya ang public shaming. For example, kung nasakpan ka, nag-forge ka, o isa ka, nag-endorse ka, tapos, pwede ka nila palakawan ka. Like, for example, palakawan ka sa ilahang lugar nga hubot-hubad, ana. So, kanang marang pakaulawan kag maayo sa public shaming, labayon kag mga bato, mga ning ana. And also napoy financial penalties or kining mga fine, magbayad ka og fine and imprisonment, and worst is pwede ka nilapat yun tungod sa pag-falsified og mga documents. So next is in 1819, England issued £1 bill inscribed on ordinary white paper with simple pen and ink, resulting in massive forgeries and the arrest of 94,000 people, 700 of which are sentenced to death. So diri ang nahitabo diri in 1819. So ang England tungod sa kaning ang England is nag-issue sila og £1 bill, isa ka kwarta gud kanang nag-issue sila, nagpalabas sila og kwarta. So they are during this time they are facing financial challenge, and nag-issue sila og kwarta nga kaning tibok na kwarta, but then ang ilahang gigamit lang ani is ang ordinary paper og ordinary ink og ordinary pen lang ang gigamit. So because as we all know, kabalo man jud nga kaning ang gamit na papel sa kwarta is lahi jud siya, unique jud ang gamit ana, kanang di jud siya kanang ordinary like para sa nang bond paper lang gagamit sa bond paper mo pay gagamit sa pagbuhat og kwarta. No, na siya specific nga kaning unsa na nga papel, unsa na siya nga kahoy gikan na papel ning anay unsa mga proseso nga ginagian, unsa nga mga pen, unsa mga ink nga ginagamit. So naay ning ana, but during this time ordinary lang daw nga gigamit, and during this time ang England is they are facing financial problems. So this pag-release nila ning £1 bill nga from ordinary pen and ordinary paper, this led to the surge of counterfeit and false counterfeit notes and forgeries on the market, causing economic instability. So tungod ato nga manghitabo ang tungod kay murag syempre ang mga tao kay dali murag ordinary lang dali ra kay makita nga mga paper ana, so murag dali na lang kay sa ilaha to forge, to falsify, to counterfeit that bill, and kana murag dali na lang kay sa ilaha nga PKO na nga kaisa nga kana nga bill, kay syempre ordinary ra di ay ma-afford man din nila nga kuan. So mo na this led nga daghan kaayo og mga tao nga naaresto nga ang kaso nila is ang forgery, which is 94,000 daw ka mga tao, and 7,700 ato nga mga tao nga naaresto is sentenced to death. So gihatulan sila og kamatayan, and makita ato nga murag napoy mali na part ang government ato nga time. So next is in 1823, the United States enacted the Principal Federal Forgery Statutes that the prohibited false making, forgery, or the alteration of the writing of the for the purpose of obtaining financial gain. So diri kay ang United States pod nagbuhat sila og kining kuan federal nga kaning force nga mag kuan tong mga tao nga naay kaning gusto nila financial gain. So naa na sila kaning kaakibat nga punishment, na sila law nga gipasa na sila para maprotektahan ang mga tao against forgery or nga mga activities. Lastly is in 1962, the American Law Institute Model Penal Code simplified and defined elements of forgery and become the standard of defining the crime of forgery. So during this time no, ang American is nagbuhat sila og kining nagbuhat sila, gidefine nila or gisimplified nila kung unsa mga elements sa forgery ug unsa jud ning forgery, gidefine nila unsa meaning sa forgery, unsa mga elements nga pwede ang sa katao makabuhat og forgery.
Expert witnesses and pioneers of document examination. So this first statement, it stated above that the 539 AD, the Justinian Code allowed experts to testify on the authenticity of writings by comparing them with genuine examples. The English system followed this, but initially restricted experts to personal knowledge of signatures and prohibited comparisons using unrelated handwriting samples. This changed in 1854, allowing such comparisons. So, the second statement, it stated that The U.S. adopted English common law and allowed expert handwriting comparisons, with the first recorded case in 1812, though it wasn't widely practiced until the 19th century. Next, the 1814. The 1814, the court allowed the submission of writings and witness testimony to compare disputed documents. In 1914, the Congress passed the Statute of 1913, which made handwriting comparisons admissible as competent evidence in court to determine the authenticity of a person's handwriting. That's all. Thank you.
1867. The first significant forgery case was tried in Massachusetts involving the traced signatures of Sylvia Ann Howland of New Bedford. The most significant testimony came from Dr. Benjamin Pease, a mathematician from Harvard, who testified on the mathematical probability of identical strokes being made in two different signatures. He claimed that the likelihood of 30 strokes occurring in two separate signatures could occur only once in 931 quintillion. His mythology was subsequently proven to be inaccurate. So, sa 1867 kay ang Massachusetts kay sila ang naka-witness sa pinakaunang notable forgery case which centered around the traced signatures of Sylvia Ann Howland from New Bedford. So ang susi daw kay sa para makita ang ebidensya ana si Dr. Benjamin Pease kay kung kinsa tong maka-provide og testimony unya tagan lang nila og chance nga 30 identical strokes. So, however, Dr. Pease's methodology was later found to be flawed, undermining the reliability of his conclusions. 1894, handwriting identification became sufficiently well known that two New York experts published books on the subject. William E. Hagan published Dispute Handwriting and Percifor Fraser published a manual for the study of documents. So in this statement in 1894, the field of handwriting identification gained significant recognition, leading to the publication of two influential books by experts in New York. These works contributed to the growing body of knowledge and practice in the analysis of handwriting and document examination. 1900. Daniel Ames wrote Ames on Forgery, one of the first books on document examination around this time. Handwriting experts who were mostly calligraphers began to testify in court as expert witnesses. So, in so Daniel Ames authored Ames on Forgery, one of the pioneering texts on document examination. This period also marked a significant development in the legal system as handwriting experts. Primarily skilled calligraphers began to serve as expert witnesses in court, providing their specialized knowledge to assist in the evaluation of dispute documents and signatures. So, it's the same year, 1900, Roland B. Molinox was convicted for the first-degree murder. Molinox mailed a bottle labeled Emerson's Bromo Seltzer, but had powder containing cyanide of mercury. It was ingested by an innocent victim who died by poisoning. The landmark case involved at least 17 handwriting experts, including Albert Osborne, the father of document examination. So, in the 1900s, Roland B. Molinox was convicted of first-degree murder after he mailed a bottle labeled Emerson's Bromo Seltzer, which actually contained cyanide of mercury. The poison was ingested by an unsuspecting victim, resulting in death by poisoning. This landmark case featured the testimony of at least 17 handwriting experts. So, nabilong pud ni kay Albert Osborne, who is often known as father of document examination. So sa ilang pag-analyze kay kani is morning ang pinaka crucial role sa investigation o sa prosecution sa kaso.
Good morning, ma'am. Di na ako nabasahon ang kaning 1902. Katong 1902 daw, si Albert T. Patrick ay nahatulan ng pagsabot sa pagpatay sa milyonaryo na si William Marsh Rice na napiki ni Patrick ang pangalan ni Rice sa mga cheque and wills after he was murdered. Handwriting expert Albert Osborne na pimatuod nga ang mga pirma na pamatud-an nga piki nga gigamit niya ang picture or gigamit po niya ang mga picture or transparent nga papel aron pamatuod na silang nagsabay. 1904, John H. Wigmore wrote the law evidence, which is revolutionized the legal profession regarding expert testimony. Kato daw 1904, gisulat ni John H. Wigmore ang The Law of Evidence, groundbreaking work transform how courts handle expert testimony. Ang iyang libro naghatag og systematic pamagi sa ebidensya nga naghimo sa mga legal nga proseso, more or structure and reliable. Ang trabaho po ni William Wigmore work again to influence modern legal practice and the use of the forensic science in courtroom. 1918, Albert Hobson published his seminal book Question of Documents, the first comprehensive book on the subject as considered as the Bible of document examination. The principle of handwriting identification that he described are still the basis for the comprehensive of writing today. Katong 1918, si Albert Osborne is published a question document, ang unang comprehensive book on document examination na establish kay principle for handwriting analysis. Ang iyang trabaho is nagpahimutang sa foundation for forensic document analysis, pag-ila sa mga piki o pag-anticate sa mga documents nga naghimo nini nga kinahanglan sa legal o criminal nga mga investigasyon. 1930, the first scientific police laboratory was established. In 1930, the first scientific police laboratory was established siya sa United States in Chicago. Gihimo kini aron matabang ang pagpatuman sa balaod sa pagsulbad sa mga krimen gamit ang scientific method sama sa fingerprint, ballistic o finger analysis. 1932, the Federal Bureau of Investigation or FBI opened their laboratory with one document examiner. Katong 1933, the Federal Bureau of Investigation or FBI official nga nagtukod sa iyang laboratory sa krimen nga adunay usa lamang ka dokumento nga handwritten letter nga gitugutan of a scientific crime detection of laboratory laying the foundation for what would become one of the world most be advanced for forensic lab. Nagsugod ang lab nga adunay limited nga mga resources nga naglihok sa usa ka kwarto sa Washington o DC nga adunay isa ra ka full-time na nagtagatan-aw lamang. Despite its modest beginnings, madali itong lumaki bilang isang pangunahing forensic facility na itabangan sa paglutas sa mga krimen sa pamagitan ng scientific analysis.
So the historical cases of the 20th century. So the historical ma-discuss na to ang katong mga cases involving the question document examination. So the forensic document examination is an organized discipline in 20th century, specifically in USA. So isa sa mga prominent people nga na ilado diri or dako og contribution during this forensic document examination in 20th century is si Albert S. Osborne. So si Albert S. Osborne is na siya libro nga publish which is the question document in 1910. So this book is considered as the beginning of the modern document examination. So parang kini ang mga gibasihan sa mga tao hangtod karon tungod ani yang book is na mga basihan ang mga taon sa pag kaning conduct og mga question o pag-conduct og mga examination. So the book continues as an authoritative source on the examination of handwriting. So magna mo gud siya nga source sa mga examination. And also si Albert S. Osborne is wala lang siya nagpabilin no, nga mag-publish, wala siya nagdual to publish book or to attend in a court proceeding as an expert witness, but he also founded the American Society of Question Document Examiner in 1942. So below makita nato ang mga cases involving question forensic document examination or mga below makita nato ang mga cases in 20th century involving forensic document examination and papaano ni sila naka-help in advancement of this forensic document examination.
Century. The first historical case of the 20th century was the Dreyfus Affairs in 1894. So, ang Dreyfus Affairs isa kadakong skandal sa politics sa France na nagsugod atong 1894. Si Kapitan Alfred Dreyfus, isa ka official sa army, wrongly accused sa paghatag og secret information sa Germany. Ang unang evidence against sa iya mao ang isa ka written document nag-examine sa expert nga si Alphonse Bertillon. Diay ang nagsulat dili si Dreyfus. So during 1898 na-discover na fake ang pila ka evidence pero gihatulan gyapon si Dreyfus sa second trial. Tungod ato nasuko ang publiko. During 1906 naman gilimpyo na si Dreyfus, gibalik sa army ug gihatagan og Legion of Honor. So ang kadtong nakaso ni Dreyfus napakita og kakulangan sa justice sa France.
The Bobby Frank kidnapping and murder 1924. So, one of the most infamous crime in American history, no, committed by Nathan Leopold and Richard Loeb, two wealthy and highly intelligent University Chicago students. On May 21, 1924, Leopold and Loeb, believing they could commit the perfect crime, lured 14-year-old Bobby Frank, no? Loeb, distant cousin, into their cousin sila no ni Bobby Frank. Into their car, they bludgeoned or sinampal him with a chisel or kanang tawag na like igamitag tigib ba, and suffocated him, then dumped her body near Wolf Lake, Illinois. To mislead investigators, they sent a ransom note to the Frank family. No, on May 21 daw no, 1924 no, si Leopold and Loeb nagtuo sila na makabuhat sila perfect crime or dili sila mailhan na sila ang kriminal. No, si Bobby Frank ay malayong pinsan ni Loeb, kaya siguro pinagplanuhan nila ni Loeb or Leopold na patayin si Bobby dahil sa may hindi sila pagkakaintindihan o talo ang magpinsan na si Loeb at Bobby. Habang pauwi si Bobby no galing sa school, dari gisugdan or dito nasimulan ni Loeb or Leopold ang kanilang madilim na plano. Ipinasok nila si Bobby sa kanilang sasakyan at nagpark sa isang lugar na walang katao-tao. At dito nila pinatay si Bobby, at ginawa nilang pagpatay kay Bobby ay sampal nila ito ng paulit-ulit, pagkatapos ay sinaksak ng chisel or ginatawag na to na tigib. At kaning sinakal nila ito hanggang sa mawalan ng buhay si Bobby no. Nang magtagumpay sila sa pagpatay kay Bobby, tinapon nila ang katawan nito sa Wolf Lake or Illinois, at para kanang lituhin ng mga police or investigator, nagbuhat sila kanang ransom note at kanang gipadala na sa kanang mga magulang ni Bobby, para isipin na ito ay kanang kidnap lang upang kanang mapagtakpan ng ilang magpatakpan nila lang sila or para dili sila mapagdudahan ba. Their friend revealed when the police discovered that he used the typewriter of his study group in law school. Pages of notes used this typewriter were compared to the ransom note and demonstrated to be identical, and Leopold distinctive eyeglasses were found on your body. Both arrested and after interrogation confessed to the murder so kanang nagubain lang plano ni na Loeb at Leopold na madiskubre ng mga pulis na ang ransom note na kanang gibuhat nila sa typewriter na kanilang ginawa ay pinadala ay pamilyar sa typewriter din na pagmamayari ni Leopold, na kung saan ginagamit niya sa kaniyang pag-aaral ngayon sa law school. So dito nagduda ang mga pulis at isa na sila sa mga suspect na pagpatay kay Bobby at mas lalo silang nadiin sa kaso dahil din sa isa pang ebidensya na kung saan nakita ang eyeglasses na pagmamayari ni Leopold at dito na sila diniin ng hindi kalaunan na umamin din silang dalawa sa ilang kasalanan. The Lindbergh Kidnapping Trial in 1935 and the Role of Document Examination. The Lindbergh kidnapping case is one of the most famous criminal trials in American history and is widely regarded as a landmark case in forensic document examination. Ang Lindbergh kidnapping case daw ay isa sa mga naging sikat na kaso sa Amerika at naging laman ng usapin dahil sa pangyayari. Noong March 1 na 1932, Charles Lindbergh Jr. isang 20 months old na sanggol na anak ni Charles Lindbergh na isang aviator o pilot ng aircraft. Ang sanggol na si Charles Jr. ay bigla na lang mismo nawala sa kanilang bahay at dito napagkaalaman na ang kidnap mismo sa kanilang bahay ay sanggol. Dahil dito meron itong iniwan na sulat na kamay na ransom note. At nakalagay mismo sa ransom note ay, "Dear sir, have up $50 ready in two $50 and $20 bills, $150 and $10 bills, and $1,000 and 5 bills. After 2 or 4 days, we will inform you where to deliver the money. We warn for you for making anything public or for the police. The child is got care." So sa kabila ng pagsunod-sunod ni Charlie sa mga pinagawa ng kidnapper sa kanya, kahit nibigay na niya mga gusto at hiningi na ransom money nito, ay hindi niya pa rin nakuha o nakita ang kanyang anak. After ilang months na ang paghihintay na makita ang kanyang anak, natagpuan ang katawan nito na wala ng buhay noong May 1932. Dahil sa hinagpis at galit ng pamilya ni Lindbergh, pinadali nila ang kaso at sabik na makita ang kriminal na walang awa na pumatay sa kanilang anak. Sa tulong ng mga ransom notes na pinadala ng kidnappers na gamit nila itong malaking ebidensya upang tuyukin at malaman kung sino ang tao sa likod nito. Walang expert document examiners ang nagtulong-tulong upang malaman kung kaninong handwritten ang nakasulat sa ransom note at isa na dito si Albert Osborne na nakatukoy sino ang nagmamay-ari na sulat kamay ng ransom note. Napag-alaman ay naaresto matapos makitaan ito ng mga marked ransom bills kung saan na ang mga pera ay pinadala o binayad ng pamilyang Lindbergh ay natagpuan kay Hopeman. Isa sa pinakamatibay na ebidensya na nakita rin sa mga pulis ay napatunay nila na sulat kamay ni Hopeman ang mga ransom note at mga ebidensya ding nakita sa kaniyang bahay kung saan meron itong wood ladder. Kaniyang addicts na kung saan dito ay kinulong at pinatay ang sanggol at dito na natulan si Hopeman ng convicted and executed in 1936.
Okay, the Clifford Irving and Howard Hughes biography in 1972. Howard Hughes was an American business magnate, investor, aviator, aerospace engineer, filmmaker, and philanthropist. He made big-budget Hollywood film in the 1920s, set multiple world airspeed record as an aviator, and acquired and expanded Trans World Airlines, which later merged with American Airlines. He was remembered as an eccentric and one of the wealthiest people in the world. However, he did not make public appearance and preferred privacy and solitude. In 1971, Clifford Irving convinced the publisher of McGraw-Hill that Howard Hughes authorized him to write an autobiography. Irving forged a letter from the Hughes to support the claim that he was requesting Irving's assistance in writing his autobiography. Irving even fabricated a contract between himself and Hughes to divide the money paid by McGraw-Hill for the book. Life magazine also purchased the right to run year of 2007. Okay, Nowadays, Clifford Irving in 1930 and 2017 was American writer best known for this infamous literary hoax involving a fake autobiography of Howard Hughes. Okay, so Clifford Irving is born on November 5, 1930 in New York City, and he attended Cornell University where the study of English and began his the career writing novels and including a fake 1969 a biography of art forger Elmer D. Horry and Light of Legacy of Mr. Clifford Irving. After prison, Irving continued writing, publishing book like The Hiox and 1981 and a memoir about the huge fraud, and his history was adapted into the 2006 film The Hawks starring Richard Gere. Okay, we have an example of the book. Number one is autobiography of Howard Hughes and the Hawks. So that's are the example of book from the Clifford Irving. The close associates of Hughes expressed doubt on the authenticity of the manuscript, while others vouched for its validity. Forensic document examiners then become involved, especially the firm of Osborne and Osborne, Brother Paul and Russell Osborne, compare sample of Hughes. None were written by the same hand, writing with the Irving forgeries, and declared that the latter. By the January 7, 1972, Howard Hughes broke his 40 years of silence and exposed Clifford Irving book the notes. Okay, Howard Hughes, 1905 and 1976, billionaire and aviator and recluse, was an American business and magnate, aviator, film director, and inventor, best known for his achievement in aviation, Hollywood, and his latter years as a reclusive billionaire. Um, Howard Hughes, born on December 24, 1905, in Houston, Texas, and inherited his tool company from his father at age 19, making him extremely wealthy, and used his fortune to finance virtue in film, aviation, and real estate. And Howard Hughes founded a huge aircraft company developing innovative planes and set world aviation record, including the 1935 that set the airspeed record at 353 mph and the huge H-1 Racer. And 1938 flew around the world in 91 hours, breaking records. Reclusion and mental decline of Howard Hughes, 1960 and 1976, become increasingly paranoid and obsessed with cleanliness due to serve obsessive compulsive disorder (OCD) and live in extreme isolation, moving between luxury hotels and the U.S., Mexico, and the Caribbean. And Howard Hughes died April 5 in 1976 at age of 70, severely malnourished and with long uncut nails and hair. Okay, we have example of Howard Hughes movie. That's Howard Hughes Aviator and Hells Angels. All right. Okay, that's an example of movie from Howard Hughes. Okay, Irving claims is stating that he never met Clifford Irving, never authorized anyone to write his autobiography, and never cashed any checks from McGraw-Hill. Clifford Irving and his conspirators pled guilty of forgery and served prison terms. Robert A. Caben testified that Hughes had not penned the question of documents.
The Hitler Diaries in 1983. In 1983, the world was stunned with discovery of Hitler diaries. Document examiners and historians declared mixed report regarding its authenticity. However, forensic laboratory testing revealed that the element in the paper contained modern ink that was not manufactured until 1956. Adolf Hitler Adolf Hitler died in 1945. The Hitler Diaries are the most ambitious hoax. Nahitabo diri sa The Hitler Diaries is that diba kaning si Adolf Hitler kay kaning kuan kay siya hilado kani siya diba kay siya ang leader sa Nazi and grabe kay siya nga pagka-leader kamay nabakal kaayo and murag effective kay siya but then the moment nga nakita nila ning na-discover nilang diary ni Hitler so siyempre murag na curious sila kung unsa jud ang sulod ani kung unsa mga gipang sulat ni Hitler so ila tong gi-examine nga kadtong diaries kung diary kung kuan ba jud to siya authentic ba jud to siya and ilahan ning gi-compare ni nila ang handwriting ni Hitler og sa kadtong diary nga ilahang na-discover and nagmatch daw ang sample kadto nga ilahang ito nga diary ug ang ilahang sample nga gigamit but then ang mga historian was proven wrong by the examiners ug sa mga nagkuan nato nga diary kay after extensive examination nakakita sila dito og mga materials kay na mga error ang mga materials gigamit and also na ay in historical inaccuracies so after extensive examination kay kaning murag galibog palagi sila kung tinuod ba jud to na mga mix nga mga report regarding sa pagiging authentic ato nga diary and so tama sila nga kadtong diary is written by the same person but kadto nga person is dili si Adolf Hitler ang nagsulat ato is si Konrad Kujau isa siya ka dealer in military memorabilia. So iyang giforge, iyang gisundog ang handwriting ni Hitler. So katong sample mismo nga ilang gigamit sa pag-compare sa diaries ug katong sample nga ilang gigamit kay the same person ang nagsulat ato si Konrad Kujau bantog murag nakita nila nga parehas ang agi and the way nga pagsulat ato. And kini siya kay iya ra din gina-forge for how many years pila na day katuig siya si Conrad ay pila na din siya katuig naga-forge sa handwriting ni Adolf Hitler before paning diaries na discover so Hitler exemplar used were forged by Kujau so tumo to ang nga katong ang diary ug katong sample mismo is wala jud dito ang gisulat na wala jud dito sa duha ang si Hitler ang nagsulat but katong duha is si Kujau raday ang nagsulat ato so diri makita diri highlighted the importance of competent examiner and ensuring the control of samples for comparison so kuan diri ang importante jud daw kung nga ang mga examiners nga mo examine sa isa ka document is mga competent o kanang ang ilahang gigamit na mga sample is kaning mga authentic para ang comparison is tama ang ilahang comparison og ma-prove nila kung unsa ang tinuod og unsay dili and ang kining Hitler Diaries kay gi-consider na siya as the most hoax of the century kaning kaning tricky daw kani siya nga kaning discovery or nga diaries nga nakita nila as sa history or sa century.